Good morning, we are now live.
Good morning and welcome to this formal meeting of the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Rob Kendrick and I'm Chairman of the committee. Welcome to all members, officers and guests present today. In particular, I'd like to warmly welcome new member of the committee, Councillor Alan Briggs, who has replaced Councillor Tyrrell. The video feed of this meeting is being broadcast live via the County Council's website, and I'd also like to welcome members of the press and public who are watching our meeting online today. As the meeting is being streamed in the usual way, I would like to remind you all that your comments will remain accessible online and can be reported by the media. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Mrs. Patricia Bradwell, Executive Councillor for Children's Services, Community Safety, Procurement and Migration, and her Executive Support Councillor, Councillor Stephen Rowe, who are in attendance today. Welcome also to the following senior officers from Children's Services: Heather Sandy, Children's Services Executive Director; Linda Dennett, Assistant Director, Children's Health and Commissioning; Tara Jones, Interim Assistant Director, Children's Safeguarding; Joe Kavanagh, Assistant Director, Early Help; Sarah Nardone, Assistant Director, Sector-Led Improvement; and Martin Smith, Assistant Director, Children's Education. I'd like to begin with the usual health and safety announcement. There's no fire drill planned this morning. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, we need to leave the council chamber through the rear doors and leave the building through the reception into the front car park and wait for further instructions. Can I please remind everyone to turn off their mobiles and other devices, put them in silent mode. Also, when invited to speak, can you please ensure that you switch on your microphone? Otherwise, those attending the meeting via Teams and members of the press and public listening to our meeting online won't be able to hear you. Please be aware that you need to speak directly into the microphones to be heard. And if you wish to speak during the meeting, can you please raise your hand and my Vice Chairman, Councillor William Gray, will make a note. So that's the introduction. Moving on to the business on the agenda for today. Item 1, apologies for absent and replacement members. Jess, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. So we've received apologies from Councillor Ashley Baxter, Councillor Noisia, Councillor Richard Wright and Councillor Colin Matthews. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Item 2 is declarations of members' interests. Members of the committee are reminded that they need only declare any relevant interests which are not being declared on their declaration of pecuniary interest form. Do any members wish to declare an interest? Councillor Briggs.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't declared on my list that my partner works at St Francis School.
Thank you. We now move on to item 3, minutes of the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee meeting held on the 21st of April 2023. This is to confirm and sign the minutes from the meeting of the committee held on the 21st of April 2023 as a correct record. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Whittington. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Smith, thank you very much. We'll now vote on the minutes. You're voting on whether you agree that the minutes are a correct record. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you, that's the minutes agreed. We'll now move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is announcements by the Chairman, Executive Councillors and Chief Officers. Firstly, with my announcements, on the 1st of June, I attended the official opening of Strutt House at its new site. Strutt House is a short breaks home for children and young people who have severe and profound disabilities and has recently been rated outstanding by Ofsted for the 12th year in a row, which I think is commendable. The home has recently moved to a former residential building on the site of St Francis Special School in Lincoln, which has been fully refurbished to provide more modern and spacious facilities. Many of the children attend St Francis, and the relocation will enable greater partnership working between Strutt House and the school, with shared facilities and better transition for young people. And I have to say, I was very impressed with not only the facilities, but the dedication of the staff there. It was really noticeable how enthusiastic they were as well. So that's my announcement. Just one further announcement, just to make everybody aware, and particularly for our new member, I'm intending to have our customary 10-minute break before item 9 today, which gives us the chance to shut everything down before we move into that next item. Let's move on to Executive Council announcements. Are there any Executive Council announcements from Councillor Mrs Bradwell?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things really. I'll just mention at the moment we're all quite busy with the openings of our special schools. I think we're having one a week, or probably sometimes two, but really do want to get them all open and as many as possible, so that after September a lot of young people will be in those new buildings, and for many people who are here who've perhaps been and seen the difference that they are making, and the up-to-date equipment and that these children will now have. It's just amazing. And we've heard about St Francis. I mean, again, what we've done there is really going to benefit the young people who actually do go and stay overnight. I think the main thing I wanted to mention today was our recent Ofsted report, which is truly amazing. And I don't know whether people have read it, but it went through the whole of what we provide, and actually to come out with an outstanding result, I think, again, is extremely good when we know how difficult it is to get outstanding, and to get outstanding several times. So, you know, I do know how hard the staff worked during that inspection. I wasn't involved, but I was on the periphery and had twice daily updates some days, and so I know how stressful that can be. So I just want to firstly just thank the team here, but also those people on that front line who are actually, you know, looking after children and young people every day of the week, because sometimes it can be weekends as well. So thank you very much for that. I just wanted to pull out a few things, because obviously Children's Services, I think one of the most important things we do is keeping children safe and ensuring they get a good start in life, and that is a priority for us at this council. And the report does say, and I'm very proud of the support we provide to our most vulnerable children and young people, and, you know, was really delighted that Ofsted picked up on that matter. I mean, the inspectors reported that families in Lincolnshire continue to have access to good local services that help to keep them safe and support them to make them good. And I would also, you know, that I think people don't realise how big Lincolnshire is. You know, I've been to smaller authorities, and obviously they still have the same issues that we have. But because this county is one of the fifth largest in the country, it is very difficult sometimes, the rurality of staff going to visit people. It's not like, you know, being in Lincoln and going down to South Park and then perhaps having to go up the north of the city. So I do think, you know, the inspectors have recognised how difficult it is. The report also noted council staff, schools and other adults involved in children's life worked to ensure that help was provided quickly when needed before issues had a chance to escalate. I was particularly pleased as well that inspectors recognised the staff spend time getting to know the children and understanding what is really important to them. They try hard to make sure that children's views and wishes are listened to, and that they are helped to stay in touch with their siblings and other family members, which is really important to those young people. If you talk to young people who are in care, one of the most important things will be actually meeting their brothers and sisters occasionally, or actually seeing their mum and dad. So again, you know, we're recognised for doing something that might be quite simple to people out there, but it is really important to the young people who we're looking after. We continually look for ways to improve, and inspectors found that even better support is now available to children and young people who either go missing or are at risk of being involved in things outside their family that may cause them harm or get them into trouble with the police. I'm sure I speak for all of you when I say we have a fantastic children's services team of staff covering a whole range of services for families across this county. And that also includes our team here, as I've said earlier on. And officers do work tirelessly in the background, you know, doing their daily job, which none of us are, you know, privy to. We just sit and obviously listen to how well our services are and get reports here. And very often our members here will question officers. So I don't think we, you know, officers or myself get an easy ride sometimes. We are scrutinised on what we're doing, and that is how it should be. I know how stressful it was for the team over the time inspectors were here. I mean, constantly at the end of the day being asked to provide more data or more information on cases and that. And, you know, inspectors, that's how they work when they go into schools. But, you know, when you're doing that day in, day out for a number of weeks, I know that it was a period of people working long hours. The inspectors did see, though, however, how extremely good our services we give to families. And I know in my interview, the Chief Inspector fed back how nice it had been to see how we work with our families. I also do want to mention and really thank my colleagues who are on the executive, because actually Children's Services over the last couple of years have been given a lot of financial support to help us, especially after COVID. We had a large number of children who were having to be placed out of county because we hadn't got capacity within county. And as you know, we've been doing more to find additional places for them in special schools, and we'll be opening a new children's home in the south of the city here to actually, and that funding, you know, obviously could have gone into highways or somewhere else, but actually colleagues, councillors, we do appreciate that actually keeping children here in the county is far cheaper than actually putting them out of county, but actually that's better for the child as well because they can see their families. And finally, I am really confident that our staff will build upon this latest success and find ways to improve the support available to families even further, so that Lincolnshire remains a place where all children are able to flourish. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry I've gone on, but it's an amazing thing that we've, our staff, everybody's done.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mrs. Bradwell. I'd certainly endorse everything you've said, and I'm sure members of the committee would join with me in congratulating the team in Children's Services on what they've achieved. Councillor Whittington.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. In light of that, is it possible to put on record out that thanks to the committee for all the hard work of the staff in achieving this? Thank you.
Most definitely, yes, we must do that. That's very important. Thank you. Councillor Rowe, I believe you wish to make some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate Heather and the whole team on achieving this outstanding rating. But I think more important is the fact that to get an outstanding rating, you have to have an outstanding service. So pass on my thanks to the whole team for being an outstanding service, and thank you very much.
Thanks very much. That's the end of Executive Councillor announcements. Chief Officer announcements. Heather Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to take the opportunity to say a huge thank you to the teams as well, and a huge well done. But also to take the time to talk about our partners really briefly. Our schools are amazing, and the police that we work with are fantastic. Our health colleagues are brilliant. In Lincolnshire, we have really strong relationships across all of those partners, and it is a result of a huge team effort across Lincolnshire that we've managed to achieve this. And also just to commit to bringing the report with an update, and of course, well, as you would expect, we'll have an action plan, and we'll bring that to the committee next time. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm sure we'll look forward to seeing that presentation at the next meeting. If there are no further senior officer comments to be made, I'll move on to item 5, which is Team Around the Child in Lincolnshire Annual Report 2022. This item can be found on pages 15 to 32 of your agenda pack and provides an overview of the team around the child activity and arrangements in Lincolnshire. And just to remind members, the actions required of us are we're required to review the team around the child in Lincolnshire Annual Report for 2022 and seek assurance on the effectiveness of the TAC arrangements in place to support children and young people. And I'd like to welcome Hannah Pendleton, Head of Service, Boston and South Holland locality, and Alex Clark, Practice Supervisor, who will be presenting this report. So it's over to you, Hannah and Alex.
Thank you, Chairman. In Lincolnshire, we are blessed with a very strong early help system. And like Heather said, like Councillor Bradwell, we wouldn't be able to do what we do in safeguarding children and young people if we didn't have the strong early help system that we have. And I will preface what I'm about to say. This is the way we measure TAC and the way we measure its effectiveness is just one way we're able to measure the early help and all the amazing work that our partners are doing across Lincolnshire. What we are blessed with in Lincolnshire is a multi-agency group of professionals who will notice when something is maybe a bit amiss for a child or young person and take action. And that's what early help is. It's noticing something at the very first and then taking whatever action is most appropriate to do that. This is just highlighting one aspect of it. So the report highlights some of the TAC journey and it goes through our early help pathway. And I will say that part of the pathway does highlight ESCO, which stands for Early Support Care Coordination. And it's a process that's followed for children and young people with complex, usually medical needs. And this is often when we need to bring together many different medical professionals to support the family with meeting the needs of some of our more complicated young people. So as the report's highlighted, early help starts with a conversation. It starts with any person within the wider network noticing that a child or young person or a family might need some help and asking them about it. What we recognize is that a child or a young person or their family sharing what's going on or any worries that they have is a gift and it's a responsibility. And we try to empower our partner agencies as much as possible to be well equipped to have that conversation and to take whatever action is most appropriate. We encourage them to record those conversations on an early help assessment and have highlighted the various, how many early help conversations and early help assessments that have been completed over the last year. You will have seen that the vast majority of these are with our education providers, which I think speaks to the sorts of relationships that children and their families get to build with their schools. And the varying other ones will, again, speak to the strength of the relationships that they're able to build. And some of the work that we're aiming to do going forward is about bringing that balance up so that professionals feel more and more able to have those conversations, to record them, and to take that appropriate action. As you will have seen, the number of TACs in Lincolnshire are growing all the time. As I said, this is just one way to measure the early help that's going on. As you will have seen through the pathway, there will be certain occasions where a conversation will be had, signposting will happen, and then a TAC won't need to happen. But that is still early help, and that is still addressing a problem and making sure that the family are getting the right help at the right time, and we want to recognize that. What we have captured through the report is that families, by and large, find the process really supportive. They find it really helpful, and the vast majority of TACs, when they close, it's because all the goals have been met, which is really positive. The other statistic I want to highlight is that very, very, very few of our TACs escalate into social care, which is another strong indication that the support that children and families are getting is that right support, and it's stopping things getting worse. It's stopping problems from becoming more chronic. We have a small but mighty team of people who support the tax around Lincolnshire. We have our TAC admin team who are responsible for logging the tax. They're the ones who ask for information from our lead professionals, making sure that meetings are happening, those sorts of things. And then we have our early help consultants who provide more direct support to any professional in Lincolnshire who needs a bit of support or wants to be able to talk things through. That could be about, how do I have this initial conversation, or gosh, things are maybe a bit stuck and I need to move things forward, and anywhere in between. They also help run our TAC forums, which is a multi-agency opportunity for any professional involved in early help, which means everybody, to be able to come together, learn from each other, and address any issues that we have collectively. By and large, the comments from lead professionals and professionals within Lincolnshire find that support that the early help consultants and TAC admin team provide to be really supportive and really helpful, and has helped them to grow in their confidence and comfort in being able to support families going forward. One of the innovations we've developed this year is around our TAC champions and being able to recognize the amazing work that some of our lead professionals have done. It's just another way for us to say thank you, and recognize what's going on there. We have undertaken lead professional surveys. You will see we haven't had a ton of returns, so we're thinking about the best way that we can get the best feedback, because the team really want to make sure that we're providing a service to the professionals, wider professionals in Lincolnshire, that they need and want. But from the information we have thus far, they're finding it very supportive, very helpful. And we have been developing more material that hopefully people will see in and around Lincolnshire about TAC, about resources available to them, and how they can access any support they have, any support they need, really. So that's TAC.
Thanks very much. That's a pretty comprehensive overview. Thanks very much for that. Do we have any questions, Councillor?
Nobody indicate. Oh, sorry, Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. And Hannah, thanks very much indeed for a very thorough report. I'm sort of looking at just some of the stats. I think it's really positive, and I think for me the crucial line in your presentation was very few tax escalate further up, which I think is really important. I think that kind of supports what we're trying to do as a council, which is early intervention stuff and getting there as early as possible. Just in terms of volumes, I'm just kind of looking at on page 5. So is page 5, the little table there, telling us that those are the number of referrals that came in from those different agencies? So if that's the case, we're seeing an increase to 21, 22, and I guess that was during COVID. So I'm just wondering if that sort of increase is still happening post-COVID, and just to sort of just to sort of find out how it's going in terms of referrals, and how you're coping with the extra workload. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
What we've seen in Lincolnshire, this only highlights 2021 and 2022, but we have seen a steady increase year on year for the past decade, I'd say. And I think part of what the increase has to do with is about the comfort and confidence of our partner agencies to recognize when there is an additional need and take that action, like I talked about before. COVID absolutely did change things, and children and families who perhaps weren't in need of support before were after. I think that the volume of tax that are running absolutely pushes us, but it's wonderful. Every new TAC that we have is more and better information, that children and families are getting the help that they need. So I think that there's no bad thing about those numbers growing, from our perspective, certainly.
Thanks very much. Councillor Smith, I believe you have a question.
I do, thank you, Chairman. Could officers advise how many contacts they may have had with those who are classed as being from hard-to-reach communities, and also with children who may have, whose parents may be in the armed forces?
I'm not sure if we don't gather that level of information. I'm more than happy to see if we can pull that together and look into it. As far as hard to reach goes, because TAC and early help is in a system whereby it's outside professionals identifying this. These are people who have relationships with the family already. I will say that we do work hard, and my next paper that I'll be talking about will touch more on our harder to reach young people, or harder to reach families. That's not data I have right now, but I'd be happy to try to pull that together.
Thanks, Hannah. I was just going to say, we don't identify families from armed forces specifically, but I think Hannah would be able to access quite a bit of intelligence locally around that. Just in terms of those that are harder to reach, I think that's one of the really fantastic things about the fact that our early help is delivered by our partners, because the overwhelming majority of Lincolnshire children go to a school, and Hannah's team, a small and mighty team, are very embedded in our schools, and so even those families that perhaps wouldn't access services or wouldn't speak out have that opportunity through the relationship with the school to get the support if it's needed. So that's one of the really fortunate things about Lincolnshire, and I think one of the things that makes us unique compared to other local authorities is that so much of this work is delivered by schools with just some support really and training offered by us to support them to do it, whereas in lots of other local authorities it will be local authority employed staff that might be based in schools doing the work, which is very different.
Thanks very much. Mr. Carl, I believe you have a question.
Just to say it's really tricky to scrutinise an outstanding service, but we'll give it a go. And just say well done to Miss Pendleton for her role in that outstanding judgment. Congratulations to you and your team on that. Just to pick up on that 10% of children who had TAC, concerns escalated to the need of intervention in children's social care. Sometimes these services may start with a social care referral, and the advice may be, hey, why not consider starting a TAC with this family? Do we know how many of those 10% may have been on that journey first before they then came back into needing that support from children's social care?
That's an excellent question, and I will find the answer for you.
Thanks very much. Do we have any further questions?
If I could just ask a question, Mr. Chairman.
By all means.
I'd just be interested to know some of the main reasons for the tax. I mean, is there a trend, or could you give us any kind of input into what those reasons are?
I'm afraid it's as varied as our families are. There may be themes that happen, but it can be about literally anything for a child or young person, and that's part of the joy of it, is that there are no things that they have to be or boxes they have to tick. It has to do with the family and whether they're able to meet those needs themselves or whether they need a bit of extra help.
Just in terms of examples, it could be about family breakdown, it could be relationship difficulties between parents, it could be parents that are engaged in substance misuse, it could be something that's impacted on child's attendance at school, it could, as Hannah said, it could be a whole raft of things that are impacting on the family that are then presenting as a need for that young person, and this is our opportunity to get in first and do something really early.
Thanks very much. If there are no further questions from members, I've got one question I'd like to ask is, how is the voice of the child captured in tax, especially when you're considering young people, very younger people?
One of the best things about TAC, our early help assessment has been co-produced with lead professionals, but also children and families. So they have advised us very clearly. They provide a lot of guidance about the best ways to do that. And there are expectations throughout that we're asking those questions about how these things are impacting on the children and young people, and how they want to be identified. And so it's about capturing this from all different angles. It's asking the professionals who know them best. It's asking their families. It's asking multiple people in their network, trying to understand and trying to guess for our pre-verbal children how they might be feeling based on their presentation. But the voice of the child, how it's impacting them, is that golden thread that weaves through the entire assessment and the entire process.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Are there any further questions from members? No?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. Therefore, I'd like to propose that the committee has reviewed the Team Around the Child in Lincolnshire Annual Report for 2022 and has been assured that effective TAC arrangements are in place to support young children and young people. And I think, judging from the comments from members around the chamber, that's definitely the case. We're very satisfied with that and congratulate you and your team on your work. Can you please raise a hand if you agree with that proposal? Thank you. That is agreed. We'll now move on to item 6, which is Young Carers Annual Update for 2022. This item can be found on pages 33 to 50 of your agenda packs and provides an overview of the work undertaken to identify and support young carers in Lincolnshire. And again, actions required of us as a committee are to review the Young Carers Annual Update for 2022 and seek assurance on the measures being undertaken to identify and support young carers in Lincolnshire. And I'd like to invite Hannah and Alex again to present the report. So it's over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Chairman. So the next report I'm here to discuss is about young carers in Lincolnshire. And the first thing I need to do is, at the start of the report, is to highlight the beautiful artwork that was done by one of our young carers. And want to make sure that I sufficiently emphasize that everything that we do with young carers is very much alongside them. Everything we try to do is very co-produced, and it's trying to understand what their lived experience is like. In the past, it's been very easy for grown-ups to assume what we think life is like for these young people, and they have been very clear about, actually, they do have challenges, and they want us to understand from them and not the other way around. So you will have seen through our priorities for this year a heavy focus on that understanding from their participation group, which they have decided to name Young Carers Matter, and what they want that to look like. We want to support our partner agencies and all professionals in Lincolnshire to be able to identify young carers as early as possible, and you will have been able to see through that we have made absolute progress in doing that. Some of the ways that we've been doing that has been around sort of awareness campaigns, social media, providing schools with assemblies, those sorts of things to try to raise that awareness, and a lot of linking in with our GP colleagues as well. We've developed a community of practice to try to support as widely as possible. And we are linking in all the time with our colleagues in adult services to try to identify young carers as much as possible. As you will have seen, we did a survey for our young carers, which we didn't get as many responses as we would have liked. So again, it's a question about how we can better capture that through a different means. We are always increasing in our numbers of young carers that we've been able to identify in Lincolnshire. Our best guess, based on census, is that we're not quite there yet for the children and young people, and we have recognized that there's perhaps children in caring arrangements that may be even more hidden. So perhaps when a parent or carer has a substance misuse issue, they might be more hidden than some of our other young carers. And with the support of our young carers, have developed some resources to try to identify them as well. We have been doing a lot of work with our schools around identifying young carers and providing them the right support in schools. We were very lucky in Boston, which is where I'm lucky enough to be head of service, where we ran a pilot with Boston High School, which is really positive, and we're looking to roll that out through more schools, about running young carer groups there and raising that awareness. We've also expanded the age range for children that we support into even, I believe, the mini-minis, which is the under fives, and recognizing the fact that in lots of families, even very young children will be doing some of the support. And you will have seen that the most common caring arrangements are for siblings and for mothers. We're not entirely sure what's behind all of that. However, we do know that siblings will make up a part of a network that's providing care and may be there to support while a parent is otherwise engaged. We do have a young carer card, which some young carers are happy to have, and we do try to capture their voice and celebrate them in as many different ways as possible, but absolutely in ways that they have chosen and decided upon. And just to say, the golden thread working through this is listening to our young carers, participating with them, co-producing with them as much as humanly possible. And our aims for next year is to do a lot more of the same, really. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Do we have any questions yet?
Councillor Mrs. Kelly.
Councillor Mrs. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your report. I'm sorry, I've got a very strange voice today. I just wondered if you could go into more detail about how you identified young carers in Boston in schools, just so that we had more of an idea about your approach. Thank you.
Thank you. It started actually engaging with schools and going to our schools and saying that this is a cohort of young people who are more hidden and who probably need a different support than's there. And helpfully, we had Boston High School who wanted to partner with us, which was really exciting. So part of it was about working with them, building up the knowledge and understanding of the staff in the school. And I will say that our young carers colleagues do work with DSLs across the whole of Lincolnshire to make sure that there is a young carer lead in most schools. But in Boston specifically, it was about working with the school, understanding their context, and then looking at what we could develop within the school that was going to meet everyone's needs, basically. And what was developed was a group for the young people that are learning there, which has been really, really positive.
Thanks very much. Do we have any other questions?
Councillor Whittington.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's really just to follow up on the previous point. Again, thanks for the report. And I also sort of noticed there obviously has been an increase in number of referrals year on year, and I did note the comment that it may be due to COVID, but it's still a bit unsure. It's that sort of relation to that sort of model you've developed with Boston High School. Obviously, it's great that they came forward and wanted to partner with us. I'm just thinking, but based on that, is that sort of a model that could be rolled out to every school in Lincolnshire? And what kind of sort of has there been? Are you thinking of doing that? and how could we support that? Because it sounds like that it's been a really useful scheme. Thank you.
It has been, and I think what's important is to recognize that every school is a little bit different, and what they want to be able to provide to their young carers may be a little bit different, and the young carers in that school may want something different. So what we really want to do is make sure that every school in Lincolnshire understands what being a young carer is feels comfortable and confident to have those discussions early. And we do have a set of best questions that we have provided to professionals to be able to have those conversations, and then really listening to them and understanding what they think is going to work, what they want for them themselves. Some will want a group, some won't, and some will want something entirely different. So it's about, for me, it's about making sure that our schools especially are upskilled to the place where they can have those conversations, and that they have the support from us about how they can recognize and celebrate those caring arrangements for the children in their schools.
Thanks very much. Do we have any other questioners? Councillor
Mr. Kyle?
Mr. Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Pendleton, for the report. Just two questions. One is a learning question around what does a young carer at 0 to 5 actually look like? What are the duties or the tasks that they're being asked to do? And the second point, just to commend the great work of the young carers across the county. And I guess in many ways this resource means that we don't have to put other resources in, or as many resources in. So there's a bit of a, you don't want to say a cost saving there for the county, but there's something within that. Does that cost saving match the resource and support we put into the young carers, or is there a significant difference? How does that match up?
Thank you. I'm afraid I'm going to have sort of a vague answer for your first question, because every family is different and the caring arrangements are different. What it looks like for every child in that family may look different. In the 0 to 5s, it might be understanding. It's probably more about understanding what may be going on. It will be preparing some of these children younger to be able to access emergency services, for instance, and be able to get help when they need it, sort of thing. And recognizing that there will be, for siblings, and for instance, there might be more that they're doing to try to support their families earlier than perhaps in other families. I'm sorry, could you repeat your second question?
Yeah, it was just that commending the great work of the young carers across the county, and recognising that if they weren't there, we may need to step in as a county council and be there to support these families. So they're kind of helping us out, and this is great. This service is helping them out as well. There's a cost saving there for the council. Are you happy with the support that goes into these young carers? Does it match up? Is there enough going in to help them?
Heather, you want to come in?
Yeah. Thanks ever so much, Mr. Kyle. I think it's a really complex question. So just to say, young carers don't replace care that the council is statutorily obliged to provide. It's recognising that they might have to take on, they might have to be a bit more independent. They might have to take on different duties at home, but they are not duties that the council would statutorily provide. So in terms of that kind of cost saving, that isn't there. So, but this is about us investing in them and recognising that compared to children who don't have caring responsibilities, and that word's a really significant word, isn't it? It's just the fact that at home they have to give a bit more care than most people would have to give to their parent or to their sibling, or perhaps they have to be a bit more independent because their parent or sibling has these additional needs, but it doesn't replace the council's statutory care and responsibilities.
Thanks very much. Did you want to comment on that, Hannah, or no?
No, thank you.
Do we have any other questioners? Councillor Gray?
No one. Oh, sorry, yes, Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, it was. I was on. I noticed there was a number of self-referrals coming in. You also referred to sort of hard to reach as well. You mentioned if parents might have alcohol or drug issues. Are those the ones that kind of tend to fall into that? Because I'm kind of seeing situations where maybe there's stuff going on at home around alcohol and drugs with the parents, and the child is kind of stepping in to take on a caring role, and are those? I'm guessing they may not want to. They may feel it's being disloyal to their parents. I'm trying to find the right language to phrase it in. You can probably see where I'm coming from. That they may feel less able to either self-refer in because they want to protect their parents. I mean, what can we do in those kinds of situations? Because I'm guessing as well, some of those issues might actually bubble through and reach the system in adult social care as opposed to children. So, thanks.
Thank you. It's a really, really good question and a really good point to make. There are lots of different reasons why a child or young person might need to support their family, and there are reasons that they'll need to support that are maybe more socially acceptable than others. And absolutely, there will be young people who are providing support where their parents are suffering with an addiction or are suffering with their mental health in a way that actually they don't particularly want to draw attention to that, and so will choose to hide themselves, and we will refer to them more as hidden young people. And part of what we try to say and try to understand is that what they're doing, how they're supporting their family, needs to be recognized, and they might need support as young people, and it might be that mum or dad need a bit of support with what they're suffering with, and that doesn't mean that what's going on is wrong or bad, or that necessarily even social services are going to get involved, because I think that might be what's sitting behind a lot of that fear. And that it's saying that actually, if we know what's going on for your family, then we could get the right help. And it does speak more to some of that early help stuff that we're trying to do all the time. But absolutely, there are arrangements in families that children will, for a few reasons, will try to, they won't publicize. But yeah.
Thank you, Heather. I believe you wish to come in.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the other thing, Councillor Whittington, is that there's kind of two prongs to this. So we also work with our schools around doing those assemblies about young carers, so that children can say, actually, I recognise that is me. Now, they might not choose to self-declare at that point, but they actually get an understanding that they're, that is them. And then the other work we do is we talk to GPs, and we talk to the health services that will be wrapped around those adults as well, so that we make GPs and police aware of spotting children who are in young caring situations, so that we can make sure that we support them.
Thanks very much. Do we have any other questions, Councillor Gray?
No other questions.
I have a question I'd like to ask then. How many young carer groups operate around the county, and what sort of activities and support are provided to them? Because I think it seems something that's very important to give support to young carers. And also, is the sort of types of activities tailored to the different age groups?
Thank you. I tell you, we've got all of our localities have groups that they offer, and they offer at the different age range and offer a wide array, as you will have seen through the report, a wide array of activities and things that they like to do. Most schools do have some form of young care offer as well. And our pilot with Boston is obviously one that we want to highlight. As far as the activities, it could range from coming together and doing crafts and activities. We have an allotment outside of Spalding that kids come together to grow all sorts of things together. And some of them, it's about recognizing and sharing what's going on in their lives. It's developing more of those relationships, and they are absolutely tailored to their age. So for the younger age group, it'll be more directed and more focused around play, whereas some of the older ones, we can provide opportunities for respite and relief, and they can enjoy a myriad of things as they wish.
Thanks for that. Could you just say a bit more about the respite and relief that you've mentioned?
it has to do with being able to come together as young carers and being able to come with another group of young people who understand the fact that everybody in that group has more responsibilities than perhaps most of the kids they go to school with, and that are in their class, so get to just be themselves. There's no extra responsibilities there. They can just be kids. What we did see is that through COVID and through lockdown, a lot of the groups were running over Zoom and over Teams. And previously we had, and what we learned and what we saw there is that actually there's the complete opposite of respite and relief, but what they really enjoyed was being able to show off their family and explain what was going on and highlight the things and saying, this is my home and this is what I get to do. So it's about meeting them where they are and understanding what they're going to most benefit from, and most importantly, it's hearing from them and listening to them about what's going to provide them that relief, I guess.
And one further question on that subject. Are these activities sort of half a day, a whole day, or do they have anything where they may be staying somewhere overnight? Could you just say a bit more about that?
Yep. Through the summer, there'll be longer days. Normally through the school year, it's a couple of hours over an evening. I'm afraid I don't know if we have any overnights. I don't believe we do, but it depends on sort of their availability.
Great, thanks very much. Councillor Gray, do we have any other questioners?
Heather would just like to...
Sorry, just to add, so where it's a sibling though, we do provide respite for those who are within our children's disability and who qualify for that respite care. So it might be that the respite comes for the family when we're supporting the disabled child.
Great, thanks for that clarification. Councillor Gray?
No further questions, but if I could just ask one.
By all means.
I'd just be interested to know about young carers and one-parent families. Do we see a lot of that, of a young carer and one-parent families? Is that a large number of people?
I'm afraid that's not information I have to hand, but would be happy to try to pull that together. As far as the data and who they're caring for, I don't have it tracked as far as whether they're one-parent families or whether it is just they're caring for their mother or father. And is that what your question was more about, the data?
Yes, the number, yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have that to hand, but I will get it, or as best I can.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Do we have any further questioners?
No further questions.
Okay, thanks very much. I would therefore like to propose that the committee has reviewed the Young Carers Annual Update for 2022 and has been assured on the measures being undertaken to identify and support young carers in Lincolnshire. I picked up on one remark that you made, Hannah, which was you used the phrase that young carers are very often hidden, and they're not, people aren't aware of young carers. And I think this is a great opportunity to highlight that, but also to highlight the support that you and your colleagues give, because it is something that's very much under the radar. I came across it in a previous life when I had some contact with a support organisation for young carers, and it's always stuck in my mind, the fact that there are young people who are having caring responsibilities. So I think that's important to recognise. So if you agree with that proposal, would you please raise your hand? Thank you very much. That is agreed, and thank you, Hannah, for your contribution, and pass on our thanks to your colleagues. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7, which is Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. And this item sets out the work programme for 2023 and can be found on pages 51 to 58 of your agenda pack. And the actions required of us as a committee are, firstly, to review and agree the committee's work programme as set out in the report, and secondly, to highlight for discussion any additional scrutiny activity which could be considered for inclusion in the work programme. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Chairman. Just have a few amendments to the work programme to report. The William Stukeley Primary School decision report has been deferred from the 21st of July to the 8th of September meeting, and this is due to a delay in receiving some costings, and the decision will now be taken by the leader between the 18th and 22nd of September. And just also to highlight the Maples short break decision report on the 8th of September by Councillor Mrs Bradwell, and that again will be between the 18th and 22nd of September instead of an executive decision on the 3rd of October. And we also have had a report added to the 8th of September meeting in relation to the recommissioning of the portage service, and this is for pre-decision scrutiny prior to decision by Councillor Bradwell, again between the 18th and 22nd of September. In relation to outcomes from the last meeting, there was a request for the Children in Care Transformation Programme to be reported back, and that's been added to the 8th of September agenda as well. The committee requested an update on the Youth Offending Service inspection recommendations, so that has been added to the 20th of October. And the committee also requested an update on the Children and Young People Mental Health Transformation Programme, and that has been added to the 1st of December meeting. So the July agenda next time round now includes the Ofsted inspection report, the Q4 performance, and a exempt report in relation to the new Lincolnshire Secure Children's Home, which members have received a few reports about in the past. And that concludes my update. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Tracy. It's now, I'd like to invite members of the committee to speak on the report. Do we have any speakers, Councillor Gray?
No speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Everyone's happy. That's great, isn't it? Well, I'd like to propose, therefore, that the work programme is agreed, and if you agree with that proposal, you'd raise your hand. Thank you, that is agreed. Thanks very much, and thanks, Tracy, for that. We now move on to item 8 on the agenda, exclusion of the press and public. Item 9 on the agenda contains exempt information, and we will now need to vote on whether we go into private session. I therefore propose the following motion, that under section 100A brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Whittington. We'll now vote on this motion. You're voting on whether you support the motion to exclude the press and public for the remainder of the meeting. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? No. Any abstentions? That is agreed. We will now have a short break for no more than 10 minutes while the live stream is being turned off, and we will restart at 11:10. Thank you very much. And thank you for the media to be with us today. Thank you.